By any chance, if you didn't know, there is something called the money anxiety, okay? There's something called money anxiety, okay? And simply anxiety is that state of having what we call nervousness. You feel nervousness, you feel you are in the state of unease, you feel like you are unease, you fear, there is that fear associated with it, okay? So anxiety is a real thing that affects a lot of people as far as the money is concerned. Now on this video, we and I gonna discuss things to do with how to handle the anxiety as far as the money is concerned like a pro, because if you don't get it right, I'm telling you, you're gonna have yourself a very, very, very tough time. And by the way, this anxiety usually comes, it's quite funny. For example, in Kenya, you're regarded as an adult the moment you hit 18-year-olds and above. That's the particular time. Obviously, you're an adult. Most of the time, yes, you don't really think about money, but you think about the personal identification. You want to know who is you, how do you want to do things. I mean, how man are you, how lady are you, and that kind of a thing. But time comes the moment you start clocking, say, 21 years and above. That's the time you start to realize, wow, I need some money for me to do some things. Well, this realization comes a bit earlier, depends on who you are. Some people, it will come, let's say, at 25, the moment you realize that, quote unquote, in Africa, you realize that your parents, like, they don't want you in their houses and what have you. So you think you have to think on how you can be able to get that money so that you can sustain yourself, get the lifestyle that you want. But truly, 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 I tell you without a lie, anxiety usually kicks in the moment you hit 30-year-old and above. The moment you hit 30 years and above, that's the time now the anxiety kicks in. And it kicks in especially when you compare and contrast yourself with your peers, with your friends and what have you. The moment you realize that, say, your friends have actually been, they have their own homes, they have businesses running, they're driving, you realize that they're financially stable compared to how you're viewing them and such kind of a thing. The moment you realize you're not in where they are, then anxiety starts to kick in. And let me tell you one secret. Anxiety most of the time kicks in, especially when you do not have what we call, allow me to use the name that I really hate much, that is the savings. When you do not have the savings, see, when you do not have the savings, this is usually equated to the situation of my future is not safeguarded, my future is not okay, my future is not, it's at limbo and that kind of a thing. So when you do not have the savings, when you do not have the investments, when you not getting yourself in a state of whereby you can be able to even sustain your sustainables, what do you call them, these things that are recurrent expenditures and what have you, there is that anxiety that kicks in. And let me tell you one thing, if you want to know people who actually have the highest anxiety, there are people who are near 40 years. Near, not even 40 years, near 40 years. Why am I saying near 40 years? Because the moment you clock 40, 45, 45, the acceptance starts to kick in. But the moment you hit 50, the acceptance is there. You appreciate who you are and where you are in terms of the finances and what have you. Well, I know that's a point of a long introduction, but this is Good Joseph speaking, and I talk anything related to finances, investments, and what have you. If you like these kind of videos, go ahead and subscribe, like the video, and make sure that you comment on the comment section if you suffer from any anxiety, or if maybe you have ever suffered on anxiety. And what are the tips do you use so that we can be able to help the community as we progress to the next level? And by the way, don't forget, you can always reach me. My number is all in the description of this specific video. Anyway, how do you handle this anxiety as a pro? Remember what I started by defining what is anxiety. You feel the nervousness, you feel the unease, you feel dreaded. There is a fear associated with that. Now, how do you handle all those things? The very first thing that you need to do, or the very first step that you need to apply, is that you need to go ahead and identify the cause of the anxiety, the cause of the anxiety. And by the way, let me tell you one secret. If you cannot identify the cause of the anxiety, you cannot treat it. For example, can you imagine this? If you show up to a doctor doesn't even find out what exactly is ailing you, that what are you going to treat? First of all, you have to go through the tests and what have you, so that at least you can be able to tell, hey, this is the reason why you're having this, and this are the remedies, or these are the actions that you're supposed to take, so that at least you can be able to progress yourself to the next level. Okay, now the point should be cause or the causative agent of the anxiety that you have. So the anxiety that you have, is it because you do not have the savings? Or maybe you do have the savings, but you feel they're not enough. But now let's define what is enough to you, because enough to you is different from enough to me. Now, you're supposed to ask yourself, first of all, If you feel like you've not saved much, the question should be always refer to your goal. What is your goal? Let's say your goal is to get 100,000. Let's say we are at the beginning of the year and your goal is to get 100,000. And we are barely at the second month of the year and you have yourself 20,000. Okay, 20,000. For me, if you ask me, I can tell you you're still on the track. There's no need of developing an anxiety. Just need to hold on, be patient, stay put, be consistency, do exactly that what you're doing as of now, because according to the race or the rate at which you're moving, you're still on the track. So identify the causative agent of the anxiety. I do not have enough savings. Okay, what is enough savings to you? Listen, I'm supposed to be having at least 60,000 of my savings, just to make sure that my emergency fund is catered for. I need to have, let's say, I said I'm going to be buying shares or stocks worth 2,000 each and every month. I have not bought any for the last 3 months. Sure, that can cause you anxiety because you are not staying on put of what you said you're going to be doing. At that particular situation or state, then that tells you that you're supposed to check out on why you've not done what you say that you're going to do. And I said at this particular point, then after identifying the causative agent of the anxiety that you have, then you classify that causative agent. You classify. The second point is to classify it. You see, once you classify that causative agent, is it internally or externally? Because the causative agent can either be externally, okay, or internally. What does it mean? Externally, these are the factors that you cannot be able to, prevent. For example, something that you literally do not have any control of. Okay, you are savings, and then a disease showed up, then it ate all your money, or quite a huge chunk of your cash, and something of sort. An emergency showed up, and God forbid all those kind of things, and then your money was eaten away. So at that particular point, even if you remain in a state of anxiety, in a state of thinking and what have you, you're not helping yourself. You're actually disrupting your mental structure that can actually help you to put yourself together so that you can be able to earn more money. So what you're supposed to do, control the controllables, control that what you can control. Leave alone those things that you cannot be able to control. That is when you deal with external things that you cannot control them, okay? And then, for example, let's say you started a business and then there are protests, there are strikes, in demonstrations in that city that you actually open a business. You didn't open your business for the 2, 3, 4, 5 days. There is no way you can control that. So what you do is that when you do not experience, or when you're not experiencing such kind of a thing, you put together some savings to cater for such an eventuality in future. And then you go to the internally or the internal things. These are related to your behavior. You are impulse buyer. You're this kind of an individual who you're not disciplined. You do not even operate on budget. You're this kind of an individual. You don't even track your spendings. You don't even know where you are heading, all those kind of things. The friends that you hang around with are the people who are actually helping you or facilitating or causing you to misuse your money and all those kind of things. So when you identify whether it is externally or internally, that way, if it's internally and it's a behavior that you cannot be able to change. For example, let's say, allow me to use this example. It's quite a weird one, but let me just use it. Let's say maybe your color is limiting you from making, but there's nothing you can do as much as it's internally, but there is nothing to do about your color, about your height, but you can do about your weight. If maybe it's limiting you, you can work out, you can stay in shape, you can actually, if you're not disciplined, you can learn books that can be able to, improve your life, like the one called The Atomic Habits, so those are just but James Clear, those are just but examples that you're supposed to, utilize and incorporate in your life and assimilate them so that at least you can propagate yourself to the next level. Okay, now guess what we are doing? We are handling the anxiety like a pro as far as the money is concerned. The other thing now is now going to do what you call action oriented. Now be action oriented. Now you've identified the causative agent of the anxiety. All right, you've identified that causative agent. Now, after identifying it, you've classified it. It's internally or externally. After then classification, now you go to the action-oriented. If you realize then it's about the external things, try to sort of curb such an emergency. That's why we usually have what we call the emergency fund. Emergency fund, that money that you set aside, you do not know exactly what will transpire. But if something transpires, requires, at least you can be able to handle it, monetarily. But if you do not have any emergency fund set aside by you or for you, then if such a thing happens, then you're going to have what we call the soft landing, and that anxiety can actually be there. Now, when you talk about the action oriented as far as the internal is concerned, is where now you start acting on yourself. If you do not have any savings, you start saving, you start putting aside a certain amount of money. You start knowing, hey, guess what? I need to save 300,000. I need to save $1 million. I need to start a business at the end of this year. Hey, guess what? A child is coming in. Hey, I'm going to marry. All those factors coming in. You have to do something. Then you have to tell yourself, I really need to put my house in order, and I need to put my savings. And let me tell you one thing. First of all, shun comparing yourself to the other, because the moment you do and you're not strong, then you're gonna actually develop that anxiety. Why? Let's say you are 32 years old, let's say you are 35 years old, or whichever the age that you are in. Then there is a successful person at the age that you are in, and probably the guy whom you schooled with. You never know. The moment you try to compare their lives and yours, you're gonna actually develop that anxiety. I'm not saying you shouldn't compete. I mean, after all, we are living in a competition world or competitive world, but the fact remains to be, at all the occasion, make sure that you put your house in order. Make sure that you understand, yes, we are in competition, but I have to make sure that I compete with my yesterday, not with other people. There is a progress. And there's somebody whom I met sometimes back, and the guy was living in a quite simple one bedroom, and the guy was so much happy. And to some people, you might think like, wow, that's not a very nice house to be happy from. But if the guy narrated to you where he has come from, where he used to sleep on the floor, he didn't even have, those kind of, poverty is real. So the guy was actually comparing himself to where he was. When he actually went to that one bedroom, he was from a single room, others from a double room, and all those kind of things. Kenyans can relate to what I'm talking about. Now, when you compare yourself to the yesterdays and what you had yesterday, there is that progression and what have you, then actually that brings forth what we call the satisfaction. Gives you the zeal, the motivation to go ahead and do it, try as much as you can. That way is the way you can actually try to say, hey, guess what? I'm actually kicking off this anxiety that was there, and actually the confidence. By the way, I don't know whether you know this. Anxiety is actually, if you ask me, I would say anxiety is the absence of the confidence. When you do not have the confidence inside of yourself of what you're doing. Because let me tell you one secret. Even if you're lying, even if you're not sure of what you're saying, but you're saying it confidently, you tend to, sort of attract people and that kind of a thing. So one thing that I'm going to tell you is that try to kick off that things that are bringing down your self-esteem, and bring forth the character that is actually propagating that self-esteem, so that at least you can have the zeal and the motivation to push yourself to the next level. And by the way, another thing that can actually develop you the anxiety, maybe go back to the causative agents, is actually debts or loans. Yeah, and these not just loans, but we call them the unhealthy one. See, the unhealthy one. The unhealthy one is the situation whereby you realize that the money that you're earning, it is not able to cater for the loans that you're having. It is not able to service the debts that you're having. Or you're in a situation whereby it is servicing, yes, but is actually leaving you with way or close to no cash flow, and you really need that cash flow. So when you're operating at that kind of a state, obviously the anxiety most likely will kick in. And I always tell people, just stop digging, figure out. You're already in a ditch. Stop digging, figure out, how can I get out of this situation? Because I actually have some clients who calls me and tell me, you know what, Joseph, I have like apps, like 10 of them that I've borrowed, and right now I'm actually supposed to pay like 100, 300, 500,000 and something of sort. I'm telling you, I'm not in a state or situation where I can be able to pay back this money, and I don't know what I can actually do, because I'm actually contemplating of borrowing another app. No, you don't do that. You close the gap, you remain there, pull all the tools down, stop digging, figure out how you can get out of the situation that you are in. And by the way, the most important thing that you can ever ask or do to yourself if you are in unhealthy debt is to ask yourself, how did I get there? Because even getting out of the situation that you are in, it is important, it is necessary. But the most important thing is to ask yourself, how did I get here? So that to prevent such an occurrence in future. Most of the people just focus on how can I get out of the debt, and they don't even ask themselves, how can I get out of here? It's like you start a business, it fails. You think about starting the other one. Yes, it's okay, but ask yourself, why did the previous one fail? Is it because of me? Is it because of the external factors? Is it because of the business itself? Was it a toxic business? Was it the location? Was it the choice of the business? Was it how I was running? Was it the people whom I employed? And all those factors. So if you're in a situation where the debt is concerned, pay the debt, try to figure out how to get out of the debt, but then ask yourself, how did I get into this debt? And then how can I prevent such an occurrence in future? And guess what? Once you do all those kind of things, by the way, this is a broad topic that cannot be summarized or sort of, finish it within a single video. I'm gonna, make several videos explaining how to handle the anxiety, as a pro, obviously out of demand. If you'd like me to, sort of go deeper into this and explain microscopic things on how you can simply try to, figure out those small things and microscopic ones so that it collectively can transform your finances, I'm gonna go ahead and do that. But don't forget, hey, I'm having a participant. That is the roster. That is, what it is, okay? Now, the point is this. Go ahead and subscribe. Make sure that if you'd like to have my services, you can go ahead and grab that number from the description of this specific video. Shoot me a call. Let's have a discussion. For now, it's a goodbye and see you in the next one.